Good evening, folks. Today I'm going to talk about three conditions of the pulmonary system. And the first condition is aspiration pneumonia. And we're going to be talking about interventions to prevent that. Second one is tuberculosis and pneumothorax. And the third one is peripheral artery disease and COPD. So the first one, aspiration pneumonia, is a serious illness that is caused when material from oral ingestion or stomach regurgitation gets inhaled into the lungs. It can be a very serious disease and you can die from it. This study found out that in most hospitals there seems to be cycles of cases for aspiration pneumonia, and it fluctuates, it spikes and then gradually decreases until there's no more cases. There's a period where there's no cases and then all of a sudden it shoots up again. So what they did is they put some interventions in place and gave some education to the staff on the floor. And what they found out is over 2 years, when they had a case, it wouldn't spike. So people knew immediately what to do and prevented more cases from happening. So that's what the first article was about. The second article is about tuberculosis and pneumothorax, and this was a review of hospital records in Iran. And what they found out was that they had split the information into two groups. One group with who had pneumothorax and they had TB. And the second group, they came in with just pneumothorax or collapsed lung. And this group, there were two other subgroups where one had a traumatic injury where you could have a collapsed lung, and the second one was what they call spontaneous pneumothorax. In other words, you had a pneumothorax, your lungs collapsed, and they really didn't know why. So they compared the two groups, and this is what they found out. They found out that when someone has TB, their pneumothorax happens when the pleural lining of their lungs gets infected, and the infection actually eats away at the lining, and then they end up with a pneumothorax. What they had really found out when they studied the two groups is that the group that had spontaneous pneumothoraxes, a lot of those spontaneous pneumothoraxes, those people actually had TB. So what they suggest is that when someone presents to the hospital with spontaneous pneumothorax, they suggest that that person get tested for TB right away. And the third and last article that I'm going to be talking about is peripheral artery disease and COPD. This study was done in Germany, and then again it's a review of hospital records and groups. And what they did is they split two groups. They found a group that is totally dedicated to listing people with COPD, and then they used another group as a control group where they had just peripheral artery disease. So they compared the two groups, and this is what they found out. they found out that the people with COPD and peripheral artery disease were often older, their condition was worse, and most of them did not know they had peripheral artery disease. That's compared to the group with only peripheral artery disease. So what they suggest is that when treating people with COPD, they check if they have peripheral artery disease, because with COPD you can get to the condition where your oxygen level isn't sufficient enough for the heart to function correctly, so therefore you damage your heart, and then with the damaged heart you get peripheral artery disease, because now the infiltration of blood isn't getting out and in of the extremities like they should. So hopefully this was not confusing. This is my first video, and so I hope you gained some information from it. Thank you.